A couple of weeks ago I changed my car. My previous model was one of these, which is a Smart ForTwo Coupe Passion with a 998cc engine, and mine was made in 2009. I traded that in and instead got one of these, which is a Toyota IQ. I chose the IQ3 with a 1.33 engine and it's made in 2012. Most of my previous videos have been reviews of various cheap gadgets, and a new car is a very expensive gadget, but this isn't really a review. What I'm trying to do here is just demonstrate some of the features of both vehicles so that any potential purchaser would know what they were getting into. Now there's various reasons that I've chosen a small car, and one of them is the width of my garage, so that's going to be something that's quite important to me. It's the overall dimensions of each vehicle, so we'll go into that later on. But first off, let's just have a general look at the smart car and go around the features and interior, etc. So the doors are quite large on the smart car, but once you get inside there's plenty of room. I mean, I'm 6 foot and there's loads of room for me. One of the things that's quite good with it is the amount of sort of storage space at the front here. That would be where a glove box would be if you chose it as an optional extra. Then you've got a cubby hole either side of the steering wheel here, and in the doors you've got a very small area. It's kind of like a little sort of thin door bin there. There's the controls for the electric windows, and there's the dashboard, which is pretty much everything you've got. When you switch it on, down at the bottom this digital display comes on. There's an optional cup holder that I put in there and a 12-volt lighter socket. You've got a few buttons below the radio, where you get heated seat buttons if you'd bought those things, and above here you've got the basic radio and the heater, which is pretty ugly I think, and got sort of plasticky buttons on it. Above there are the clock and a rev counter. Now notice the rev counter is on the left even though I'm sat on the right, and that's because it's probably designed more for the left-hand drive market. This model has a Perspex roof. Now one thing about these Smart are the pedals feel really weird compared to any other car. It's a bit like driving a bus because you're kind of pushing them into the floor rather than forward like you normally would do. Now one feature of the smart car that I'm demonstrating now, which is very useful, is the ability to step across inside very easily because of this cutout where your feet can go, and that means you can get out of the car at either side if your car's blocked in or in a small space. Now the gearbox on the smart car is rather unique to say the least. It's got this click it up and down selector so you can choose the gear that you want, but you can put it into an automatic mode by pressing the button on the side of the gear knob here. But notice that that's on the side with the fingers rather than where the thumb would rest, so again it's something that's probably designed for the left-hand drive market. There's one other feature of the smart car that I really like, and it's the plastic body panels, and I'm sure the thinking behind this is that if you were to park it in a narrow space and someone was to open their car door into the side, you wouldn't end up with a dint. Now this area around the outside here is metal, and that's what provides the structural rigidity for the car. Right, now we'll have a closer look at the IQ. I bought an IQ3, which is really known as an IQ cubed, but I don't really like saying that, so we'll call it an IQ3. Now, you'll see on the interior here, it's a bit more traditional when you compare it to the smart car, a bit more kind of normal looking. On the right hand side here are the controls for the mirror and the engine start-stop button. You've got the dash here. On the right hand stalk you'll notice there it says auto, so we've got auto wipers. That area there will switch the power on so we can just have a look at it all lit up. You'll see the left hand bit there is a kind of multifunctional display that can display miles per gallon or trip details, you know, the usual kind of stuff. It's pretty basic, it's got everything you need though. On the steering wheel I've got controls for the radio, and in the middle here that's the aircon, which on the IQ3 I've got this climate control version. The dial on the outside here has multi-functions. If you spin it in one mode it changes the temperature, then the next mode changes the direction of the air, and the bottom one changes the fan speed. It's all contained in that little bit. You've got a CD slot there which is sort of built into the dash, a little bit of a display at the top. This is very reflective, and for some reason it's got red on the top, which I don't understand why. That isn't just a normal neutral colour. Down at the bottom there you've got a 12-volt socket which has this kind of cap on it, which is a bit annoying because you can't just pull it off. It's always got to stay on there if you've got something in. A little bit of a storage area, a few buttons on the right there, auxiliary in for your iPod headphone socket, and I chose the auto gearbox, which is an optional extra. It isn't standard, and it's a standard auto gearbox, pretty normal on that. You have got a little amount of storage, very small amount of storage. This is a kind of glove bag which attaches to the front with Prestos, which is an optional extra, and you can fit maybe an iPad in there. And on the right here you've got the window controls, but the door bins are very large on the IQ, so it kind of makes up for the lack of storage everywhere else. You can fit quite a lot in those door bins there. It's got a cup holder in both, a cup holder in the middle there, and there's even a couple in the back as well. It's a bit of a storage space there where you can sort of put something between the seats, maybe a bag or whatever. Behind the back seats here, if you pull that, it opens a catch up, and in that there's enough storage space to fit, as I've put in there, the headrests off the back seats. I'll show you why I did that later on. Well, this is why I did it actually. If you look in the rear view mirror here, you can see that they're kind of in the way, so that's why I took them out. Also, that rear view mirror, it's an automatic dimming one, so that's quite clever. You've got automatic wipers that I mentioned before, and you've got automatic lights there. You don't have to have everything auto, you can switch it auto manual if you want. The IQ2 and 3 have this keyless entry system. I'll show you how that works. You can lock and unlock the car as normal using the buttons on the key fob, but as long as you've got that fob with you in a pocket or a bag or whatever, you can just open the door by pulling on the handle like that, or lock it by tapping on the top like that. There's sensors on the back of the handle that unlock when you touch them with your fingers, and that's a sensor on the top of the handle to lock it as well. The back is a similar thing where you can open the boot by pressing that button or lock it by pressing that one, so you never need to get the key fob out of your pocket. Now, while we're looking at boots, let's just look at the storage space. The Smart has quite a lot, in my opinion, storage space. I've been on holiday in this with a couple of big suitcases and it was fine for 2 people. Now, this area here, you can sort of fold down that shelf, which makes it quite large. The backs of the seats are reinforced. The idea is you can store stuff right up to the top and use the seats to stop it going into the cabin area. The engine is below that, and it's under this sort of carpet bit here, so I've never actually gone in there and had a look at it. The back drop-down tailgate thing has a bit of storage in it as well, which is quite useful. Now, if we look at the IQ in comparison, you'll see that with the seats up, you've got nothing. There's no storage at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to knock the seats down, but you'll notice they don't knock down with the headrests on. So that's why I had the headrest taken out in the earlier shot and hidden under the seat, and that's what I'd have to do here. So since I never really take any passengers around, I've just left them out all the time. And then the seats drop down fine, and you've got pretty much the same amount of storage. I haven't actually looked at the litres, but I don't think there's much in it between the 2 cars. And you've got this nice little sort of cubby hole down the back of the seats here at the back where you can fit a few things. The back's got these press studs in it as well. If you remove them all the way around, it comes with a little sort of tonneau cover that you can clip to everything, so that if you were carrying something in the back that was maybe a bit messy, it wouldn't sort of ruin all your seats. Now, while we're talking about seats, let's just go on about the fact this one has got some rear seats. So, first off, the passenger has to be slightly staggered forward from the driver if you're going to be carrying people in the back. Not a lot, but just a little bit, and notice there's plenty of room in here. And now we'll go in the back and just have a look how much space there is in there. Now, you can only get in and out of the passenger side of this car if you want to get in the back. You can't do it from the driver's side. Now, I'll just sit in the back here and put the seat back to where it was. And you'll see there's plenty of room for me in the back here. So the car carries 3 people very comfortably. There's no issues with that at all. However, it doesn't carry 4 people, but I don't think anyone's really expecting it to. Look at the amount of space here behind the driver's seat, and that's in the position that I normally sit in, so you're never going to get anyone in there. So what you do with this seat, you just leave it in the down position all the time, and that enables you to have a 3-seater car with some storage. We'll just have a quick look around the front of both cars. Of course, with the Smart having its engine at the back, all it's got at the front are a few bottles where you can top up the various fluids and things that the car needs. Whereas on the IQ, they've managed to squeeze a full 1.33 engine into this space, and one of the ways they've done that is by having it go underneath the dash area, and that would explain why they've got no room for fitting in a glove box and things. Now, one thing that's important in a car of this size is how big it really is. Now, because I didn't own both cars at the same time, what I did was I put a mark around where the car had been in the garage so that when I traded it in and brought the other one home, I'd be able to see how different they were in size. So that's the mark around the smart car there, and that's like the mark to show where a smart car used to be before it was killed. And then here is where the IQ fits. Now I haven't parked it quite perfectly, but as you can see, it sort of overhangs only a little bit over the edges of the blue tape. There's a little bit of overhang at the back there and on the sides, but it's not like double the size or anything. What it is though is quite a bit wider. Now it doesn't look it there, but it's because of the wing mirrors. So I'll just show you here. Here are the two different cars flashing back and forth inside the garage, and that's how much width I've got inside my garage, which isn't an awful lot for getting in and out. Now I don't know why manufacturers don't include wing mirrors when they do width measurements. They always say width without wing mirrors. Well, I like to go through a gap including my wing mirrors. I don't like to knock them off, so to me it's quite important how wide it is including them. So I did my own measurements. So from the edge of one mirror to the other one on the smart car, it's 179 centimeters total width, and the same measurement on the IQ is 199 centimeters. That's quite a bit wider. In fact, it's wider than my Mini that I had before and my Mazda MX-5. So unless it had these electrically folding mirrors, which luckily the IQ2 and 3 do, it wouldn't get through my garage door. And to conclude this video comparison, I'll show you some footage that I shot in both cars whilst I was out on the road. First off, the smart car. Now this is a stretch of road that the car always has trouble with. It's an S-bend up a hill and then over a few bumps. It always changes down and jumps about. There we go, that's the big jump there. Now we'll see how the IQ fares over the similar, well, over the same stretch of road later on when I pick up the IQ. But at the moment, this is one of the things that's not very good with the Smart. It really does crash and bang over bumps. I hope this is coming across on the camera that I'm sort of being shook around here. And you've really got to drive a little bit like driving a motorcycle. You try and avoid all the bumps in the road whenever possible, but occasionally you'll hit one because there's nothing you can do about it. So I think you can see that it's a pretty unsophisticated ride in the smart car. When the smart car was first conceived all those years ago, it was a very clever design. But unfortunately, things have moved on, especially with suspension improvements, engine improvements, efficiency, economy, that kind of thing. And the Smart has really, in my opinion, got left behind. I don't know if you can hear the very annoying rattle in the back, but apparently that's one of the things that the smart car is known for, is having annoying rattles. The other thing it's known for is having a terrible gearbox. Now it's an automatic gearbox, and I'll be honest, I never had an automatic car before. And as a result of driving this car, I now know that I want another automatic car because they're so much easier. And I'm getting older and maybe it's something to do with being lazy. But the automatic gearbox in the smart car is really quite poor. You get used to it, I'm not saying you don't, and it doesn't, after a while, it doesn't become an issue. But it isn't a good gearbox. When you change up a gear, it takes too long. It revs really high in a gear before it changes into the next one, which I think is going to affect fuel economy as much as being annoying. Going down the hill now, I'm in second gear. It hasn't changed. So I'll do a bit of acceleration, then you get a jump. It does a lot of jumping around. When it changes gear, it's very slow at doing it. It's not sort of invisible. So you're driving along in a gear, then you go, whoa, and then it's in the next gear. So it's not a good gearbox. I think we'll just leave him going on with himself, and we'll go and have a look at the IQ.
Right, now we're going to go over the same stretch of road that we went over in the other car, and we'll see how it fares. Let's have a look. Here we go, around the corner. That's a much less harsh bump. Right, you'll probably notice now from watching the footage, or the video, that I'm getting bashed about quite a bit less. Now there's a bump that I really wouldn't have gone through in the Smart car. Probably would have knocked it upside down. Now let's have a look. The turning circle on the IQ is the best of any car that I've ever seen. Right, now I'm going to apply full lock onto the car and we'll see where the car ends up. So I'll turn it around. Oh, by the way, the IQ's got power steering, the Smart doesn't. But anyway, that's another story. Right, we'll turn it around. And it turns around in a really tight circle. So there's a number of times when you can just spin the car around on the spot virtually, which is incredibly convenient if you just want to move around, do a U-turn. You can pretty much do a U-turn on any road, obviously assuming that it's permitted in that area.
So there you go, that was my comparison of my old car versus my new car, and hopefully you've either had a little bit of entertainment here, or if you're thinking of buying one of these, you've learned something here today. Now, I do still like the Smart car. I like it for its quirkiness, its overall dimensions, and the fact it's got plastic body panels, but I do of course like my new IQ. I wouldn't have bought one if I didn't. I like it for the fact it's bang up to date with all the latest technology. But it did cost me over 3 times the amount that my old car was worth as a trade-in, so it should be a little bit better in some areas, surely. But I'm really not here to suggest which car is the best, because that's down to the individual. And to be honest, you're probably not even looking at buying either of these two cars. You'll probably get something completely different, and so you should do. You should buy the car that suits your needs and not someone else's. So for the moment, thanks for watching.